We are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining me today on this episode 4 of the ACG Show and Tell Summer Social Mixer for the summer series. If you're new here, ACG stands for Anime, Comic, and Gaming Social Mixer. So this is the place for all things anime, comic, and video game related, also cosplay related. So if you want to mix and mingle, if you want to socialize, connect, collaborate, and also maybe create something new with the virtual guest artists, any other members in the audience who chime in, you're welcome to do so in this space. This is a former space that was done offline, but looking for ways to bring it digitally to you. So these sessions are sponsored by nerdlife_geek life. So it's nerdlife geek life Instagram page. So get all your news, insights, merch, and convention information via the Instagram page. So thank you so much for sponsoring us again for this 4th episode. So I'm going to be bringing in my guests shortly. So let me do that. So those of you who are chiming in now, please feel free to leave a comment on the bottom. So when we get into our show and tell segment in just a little bit, you have any questions for our virtual guests, any questions for me, shoot them in the comment below. Also, as every other episode before this 4th episode will also be on Instagram TV as well. And you can leave comments there also. I've been doing my JoJo shirt. Dio.
Hey.
Hey, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Welcome. So glad to have you on here.
Finally,
give me a sec while I adjust my camera here.
Yes. How you
okay.
I'm here at the studio. It's a production studio, so it's in Manhattan. I do storyboards here and stuff for advertising. So when I don't do the advertising, I work on the tablet here. So you get to see a little sneak peek of me drawing and all that stuff. So it's going to be kind of fun.
Oh, great. Looking forward to it. I'm glad that you got us into the studio, too. I'm sure now, so many spaces are not open, but you got the pleasure to give us that blessing.
Too, which is perfect.
Great. So let me introduce you formally. So this is episode number 4 of the ACG Show and Tell Social Mixer. Please welcome my guest, Rolo Ledesma. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Yes.
Yes. So he's a comic book artist, a creator. He's working on his latest comic book, Curves and Bullets.
Yep.
He's also an Eisner Award nominee. He'll be here talking to us about all things related to comic books, from storytelling, his creative art style, and also his any other projects he's doing as an illustrator. He's currently doing a children's book illustration.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm honored too. Thank you. I appreciate inviting me and all that, and you get to see me working and all the questions. I'm ready.
Yes, I am too. Thank you. So just before we get into that, because I want to give you as much time for the show and tell, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sure I missed everything. I'm sure I missed so much more you have to tell us about you.
Well, I'm basically a professional storyboard artist and also comic book creator and illustrator for the past almost 20 years now. So it doesn't feel that long, but it's a long time. So I started in advertising. I'll say back in early 2000, and I worked with several companies, basically word of mouth. Like from one company, I went to the other people and say, "Oh, he's fast and this and that. We got to come to." I try to be professional, so I always try to finish the artwork on time, and that helped a lot. And from there, I worked with an independent company, and back in 2003 with Terminal. And from that point forward, we started working together. They were based in Long Island. And then one of the books we did, it got me basically the Eisner and the Russ Manning nomination at the Comic-Con in San Diego.
Right.
So that was a pretty big honor right there. I was like, I wasn't expecting that one.
Really?
Yeah, it was like the best newcomer in the comic industry. I was like, wow. So to me, that was good. And there, I basically just kept doing my independent work in different companies over the years, and I decided to do my own book in 2012. So from that point forward, I started Curves and Bullets, and all that stuff.
And it's still going, so
Yeah,
that's great. It's
yeah,
awesome. I'm always curious to know because you started out before, in the early 2000s and stuff. For over 20 years, you've been doing this. I
yeah.
always ask my guests who are pre-internet, pre-smartphone, social
Mm.
media, how is it to, be a type of comic book artist and creative during that time compared to now?
A lot of phone calls.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Phone calls on a payphone because
Yes.
I had a raggedy cell phone at that time, so basically I didn't even have a computer, so it was like a lot of
Hmm.
phone calls and me going to the offices and a lot of word of mouth saying, hey, come through, we need you for drawing something real quick. So it's mostly I had to be home a lot to get that phone call.
Hmm.
So and if I missed out, and luckily I didn't miss out big projects. So and then upgraded little by little, but mostly I didn't get to learn how to do Photoshop, I'll say, till maybe 2005. So it
Hmm.
was mostly all hand painted drawing, coloring, and watercolors, and little by little started doing, using the computer and stuff. So, but yeah,
Yeah, word of mouth is such a powerful thing even today. I feel
yeah,
like,
yeah,
we kind of forget that. Like there's still some of those old school techniques and skills, like
yeah,
such as word of mouth,
yeah,
that
yeah.
still are valuable today.
And
So it's
and and,
interesting to know.
and also you gotta basically be professional because that's
Yes.
why word of mouth works because it works both ways. You can say,
Hmm.
oh, don't work with this guy. He's not coming through. So I always have to
Hmm.
be on point and show them, yeah, I can make this happen and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's something like, especially now with social media and the young generation now, they were born into
Yes.
the internet, born into the way social media is, and that's that way of that interaction, not
Yes.
only personally but professionally as well.
Yeah.
So they're coming in with such a different mindset of
Yeah.
like, I also grew up in the 90s, and we had to do payphones and make sure we stood home as well and have our
Yeah.
beepers too. And
Yeah. Yeah. Wait for the phone call.
oh, what is it? Like we had the cell phones, wait till 9 o'clock when we had our
Yeah.
unlimited.
Oh, that's the other one. I forgot about that.
So So I'm curious about the Eisner award.
Yeah.
So as a new artist, what made you feel so surprised about it? You
'Cause
know?
normally Russ Manning and Will Eisner, those are like the men who created what comics are nowadays,
Yes.
and they made it to that format, into laying it out and putting the panels here and there and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
Will Eisner was the man, and that's why
Mhm.
he has that award based on him. And Russ Manning also, he was a veteran of the comics during the 50s and 40s and 60s and 80s and early 80s. And
Mhm.
he basically was kind of the man I kind of looked up to also over the years because he drew Star Wars comic strip that not a lot of
Mhm.
people know. So he
Mhm.
was the man behind that. So when I got that nomination, I saw his name, I was like, wow. So,
Mhm.
and it's so funny because I got the nomination for this book called Phony Baloney, and it was with Scene, who's like basically like the big man of graffiti, and
Mhm.
and then over the years it was with Scene we met, and then I met Fetus, who's another amazing artist, and he
Mhm.
helped basically ink my work. So I drew it
Mhm.
and he inked it. And then Brian, who was with Terminal Press at the time, he wrote the story. So we all got together and that book came out and it was a hit.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting that hit. And
All
basically
right.
from that point on, then we got this nomination at San Diego
Mhm.
and say, oh, you got to come through. So that was big.
Yeah, so fast forwarding a few years after that,
Yeah,
now we got internet, now we got,
yeah, everything.
Photoshop and all this modern technology. How has that made things either easy or difficult for you, you think?
It made it easier, I think. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
especially when getting the artwork done quicker and faster. Like when I draw on the computer, I don't have to worry about erasing and this and that and doing the whole thing. I just basically just go in and I'll start inking and
Mm-hmm.
from that point forward, email.
Of
So,
course.
it makes it so much easier. And the tablet also is like it's amazing. Like I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
the actual tablet till maybe 10 years ago. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Mm-hmm.
it's pretty recent.
Right. Yeah, it's such a interesting thing. Just just like everything from communication
Yeah.
to technology, like how it's shifted so much, and we're seeing it now with COVID
No.
19. How like a lot of businesses who were brick and mortar,
Yeah.
how now they had to just suddenly shift to e-commerce, so they had to shift to going online and find that way.
And you're right. And it's funny that this was actually not the virus itself was coming, but the change was coming as far as
Yeah.
technology and making accessible with internet, eBay, Etsy, the websites to sell stuff. That was coming. And I kind of
Mm-hmm.
fell behind because I always wanted to get my website active and going with all the e-commerce and stuff. But with all your work, it's kind of hard, to do all that one man. Basically, I'm kind of like a one man team. So I do have helpers like that color my books and stuff. But when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
other more technology type stuff like websites, it's kind of hard. So, eventually I'll get there. Now I know the blueprints, what I need to do, I'll make it happen.
Right. Yeah. That's why, my philosophy is all about takes a village, and
Yeah.
collaboration is so
Yeah.
important into, building whatever your mission and vision is individually. And it
Mhm.
always takes those people who've either experienced it or want to learn, who are
Yeah.
just hungry for it, building that whole entrepreneur experience. And
Yeah.
it is a difficult, it's a difficult role as an entrepreneur, but it's fulfilling. It's very, yeah. So I was curious, so how are you managing? How do you think? Because I also spoke to my first guests, because they're comic book creators as well.
Yeah.
How has the comic book industry been shifted in the past 20 years, especially with COVID?
No, especially. Well, I've been kind of lucky in a lot of ways because I do a lot of Comic Cons. So I sell a lot of my books through the Comic Cons. And
Mm-hmm.
I do small print runs when I do the shows. And I get them printed, I sell them out, and I keep moving forward. And I do other books after that. So it's almost like small print runs. And small
Mm-hmm.
print runs, I sell out and keep going. Almost like hit and run, hit and run.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
and also Comixology. That helped a lot. Comixology is like you can download all my books now, and if you go to Comixology and you type in Curves and Bullets, they're all
Yes.
there. So I don't have to go to store, oh, can you have my book here and this and that. It's good to have a mom and pop shop that supports you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few.
Right.
I've been lucky with
Mm-hmm.
that, just hands full. But again, when you're by yourself publishing your own books, it's not easy to do
Right.
traveling, the selling, the drawing, the context. So that's the only thing. Sometimes I do need a little extra hand with that, but I've been,
Yes.
been managing pretty well. So, and I'm pretty lucky to have also helpers that help me when it comes to the coloring of the books and the lettering,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to worry about, getting that side done. Like I can focus on
Mm-hmm.
the next book, the next project, and so on. So yeah.
All right.
But
Great.
I love that it's on Comixology. You can actually download them.
Right. So is the Comixology, is it on your website?
Right now, yeah. If you go to my Instagram, it's on the upper corner,
Right.
and it says
Mm-hmm.
Comixology / Curves and Bullets, and you get to see
Right.
all the titles there.
Yes. So those of you who are just joining us, before we get into our show and tell segment, you can find all the links in
Yes.
my description of this episode right after this episode is done on Instagram TV. So for our show and tell, I'm going to be asking a little bit more questions, but for the audience,
Yeah.
if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment box below for our guest here. So just let us know, what will you be showing and telling for today?
Well, in fact, I'll start by showing you some of the works that I've done, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
you can see it on the screen. Let's go here. This is actually the
Yeah,
cover
we got
of
it.
the new book. It's the
Mhm.
anthology story, and basically, the main characters. I love drawing muscle cars and Mad Max type grindhouse worlds. So that's my thing.
Yeah.
And I have Keith McCleary, who helps write the stories, and also I have two more writers, Carlos Espada, and sometimes myself that I put them together, and then my friend Ian Stigliani. We all get together and just write the stories and stuff. But here's another page. This is actually the story that I worked on myself, and Keith helped me put it together. And you get to see some of the other artwork, like Motor World. There's been the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Yep, I got it.
And then I have I do photo shoots based on my characters. So I do all the effects. See, that's where my Photoshop comes in.
Oh, interesting.
So I
Do you
have
do the photography as well, or more like
I have
the
a photographer.
effects?
I have several, but one of them is like my main go-to, and he helps me basically just shoot on the green screen, and I do the rest. So
Okay.
I love incorporating different elements and stuff. And then you get to see how it's basically done. The black and white, from pencil to black and white, and then color. And also I'm working on my skateboards. That'll be up on the shop soon.
Oh, wow, interesting. Let me see a little bit. Hold on, I can see a little bit of it.
You see it?
A little bit more to the left, I believe.
Right
to your
here.
left. The other side.
Ah,
I thought it was your left. Yeah.
there you
That's
go.
it. Oh, okay. Interesting. So, so for these, did you just start doing the skateboard project, or you've been doing it for a while?
For a while, actually, I've done skateboards over the summers, past 3 summers. I sell them at the Comic-Con. They go quick.
Oh, I'm sure. Definitely.
I'm pretty happy.
Especially
with
out
that.
in Cali, huh?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Like, oh my God, it's good they go, And then also, let me show you the book I did with for Mimi, which is the children's book. So here you see how my styles just changed completely from the crazy grind, dark, gritty work to more of the child style.
Amazing, yeah.
And I love
Not a lot of artists could do that. That's the amazing thing. Like sometimes you could see certain artists, oh, that's that artist.
Yeah,
but
they
I love that how it could change up the style. It's great. Tell me a little bit about the illustration differences between your usual style and Mimi's.
Well, it's funny. I always look at it when I do the Mimi book. It's almost you have to be nice, appealing to the little kids. So if you go overboard with the details, it's overwhelming for them. So I rather not go like that, and because it's too much. You got the story and this and that. You want them to like flow with the story because the story is also fun. So and that's why I make it simpler. And as far as like the way he looks, the way Mimi looks, the little dog, cats and stuff, because you want it to be like they'll remember it along with the story.
Yes.
And and then they'll recognize it down the line. Oh, that's Mimi, or that's Comic Cat. I always look at also how the veterans used to do it back then with their style, Hanna-Barbera and the whole, even Curious George and European books like Tintin, real simple lines. And I got influenced a lot by European books. So so I always saw how they kept it like simple, and I said, you know what, I need to do it the way they would do it. So, and I put aside all my crazy style like this to more like this. And I love it, actually. To me, it's pretty fun to draw in that style. So it's good.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to mix things up. And, sometimes you just want to you get the ability to do something different in a way, and then when you go back to the other project, you go with it with this new insight. You actually take things away from the other styles.
And it's funny because the Eisner, the Russ Manning nomination was with a style that was almost like this. So simple, crazy, simple style. And compared to my other stuff. That's what kind of blew me away. Because I draw so crazy. Sometimes I think to myself, I draw so detailed and crazy, but they love this better. And that's what got me nominated.
I've seen a lot of your stuff, and a lot of it is as soon as I first saw it, reminded me a lot of like that Sin City kind of style, like Dark Knight, kind of vibe. So I definitely can see that. And then when I heard you were doing this, and then saw the Instagram page for Mimi, and I was like, wow, this is such a 180, but I loved it. I loved it just as much. It was like just amazing as well.
And a shout out to Marin, because Marin Jackal, she's a friend of mine in Germany who started the Mimi book when she came to visit New York. And it was such a big influence, New York, an impact for her. She goes, I got to make a book based on my visit, but with a different character. Let's make a cat. So it all went from there.
No, that's the best. That's the best way to do it. I feel like, well, cats are the rage now. It's the best thing to draw, and you get that New York City vibe. I feel.
Oh yeah,
like
what?
that cool cat vibe.
Gotta get your actual book, so you get to see how the inside, because it's all New York iconic places like Empire State Building, the subways, and all that stuff. And they're all full.
Yeah, I would love, I'm an educator, so I have a lot of parents and educators who on my channel. So I would love for them to see, because I have friends of mine who are actually doing a readathon, and they're collecting books, and they're also trying to get kids to read books. It's summertime, so you want kids to get their reading, So, so if you guys are watching this, please definitely check out this children's book as well.
Yes.
So I'll let you take it away. It's anything else you want to show us, but you're going to be showing us as well?
And also show you some of my mom's work. So
really?
So that's why I draw. I grew up watching her over the years, and it been a big influence between that and the comic books. So watching her do her magic was like, okay, that's a big thing.
Oh, wow. That's actually just beautiful stuff. Is she like is she professional, or she does it like personally?
Yeah, she was professionally painting for like all her life, basically, from the Dominican Republic. Actually, there's a book they made about her at the Museum of Modern Art. So you get to see some of her paintings.
Amazing.
So it's a nice thick book. So
wow.
So it was a pretty fun project. Retrospective they made on her at the Museum of Modern Art in Santo Domingo. So it was
wow! Shout out to your mom. Give her a shout out. Yes, definitely, it's great.
So I'm gonna draw real quick, and you can ask me whatever comes to mind, and you get to see me drawing. So
okay, great. So those in the audience as well, you got any questions for Rolo as well? Please bring them on here as well. So tell us a little bit about this piece. Is this characters from the Curves and Bullets series, or?
Yes. This is
tell us a little bit about that as well, if you can, because I know Curves and Bullets is your new thing.
So let's see. This is Mecaniqua. She's like the woman in charge of putting all the cars together that you see in the books, and she's like hard as nails, but soft heart at the same time. So I try to make it more relatable to real people. So, not like over the top superhero type stuff. So I think that's why I like drawing these, because they're more relatable to real folks and the way they are and the way people are. And not everyone's like basically a hero, but they could be when the time comes. So she's one of like that together. She puts all the stuff, and then you have the villains, which is like her. This is going to be almost like a promotional poster that I'm working on. So you have to see later on in full color what's it going to look like. So,
oh wow!
And my friend Sherwin, and I have three colors that help me out: Sherwin, Santiago, and then Edwin Domingo and Maddie Bova. Those are like my three go-to colors. So when I could color it too, but it just takes too much of my time. So I'd rather have, someone that could do their magic on my own, basically. So you get to see, I love working on the Wacom tablet because it makes life so much easier. Like I can, and a shout out to Lair for letting me use their Wacom tablet for the past couple of years. They're amazing. I've been working with Lair for, I'll say, 15 years now. So they're almost like family. And I always do storyboards for them. And over the years, I'll send you links of YouTube videos of the commercials and music videos I've done. So you get different things, different styles. And it's fun working on basically production work, because you get to see how you sit down with the director. He comes up with the idea, I sketch it, and then he's like, let's film. So it's pretty fun to do that.
No, great.
The process.
So before I ask you a question about the characters there a little bit more about Curves and Bullets, New York Blade asks, who's your favorite comic book hero?
In the Curves and Bullets? actually her. And let me see if I have another one somewhere. I know I got the other picture somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. So, well, I love Mimi, of course, but
Right?
but
I guess everyone's a hero in their own kind of
yes,
way, right?
yes. But the
And for the
actually,
kids.
yeah, well, especially for them. But this is one
Hmm.
of my favorite characters. He's like a robot, half cyborg type thing. He's in a new anthology book, and
Hmm.
basically, I love drawing, of course, vehicles and a lot of action scenes. So
Hmm.
a lot of my books are almost like retro style of
Hmm.
the classic comics
Hmm.
I grew up with, and also with
Right.
cartoons in the 80s and 90s and stuff, like all the movies like Mad Max and you know sci-fi movies. It's all been a big influence on me over the years. Even in comic books like G.I. Joe and of course Spider-Man and stuff that I grew up with. That's
Like
what it's,
Blade Runner and stuff,
Blade
right?
Runner, especially. All I'm a big sci-fi geek.
Hmm.
So, but I also love European books.
Hmm.
I love European comics and graphic novels because
What are some that you'd recommend? Like if you had to
um
name one or two
well let's go
from
from
your.
kids to adults. From kids, I
Mhm.
would go with Asterix. It's like a little Viking character with his big buddy, and they all
Mhm.
go through adventures throughout history. It's like a old, I would say, the Viking era. All
Mhm.
your adventures,
Mhm.
but the artwork is so beautiful. And
Mhm.
then you have Tintin, of course, by
Mhm.
the famous Belgium illustrator, and he created the whole characters and stuff. I love all his
Right.
adventures and stuff. It's like from the 30s, but it's still relevant
Mhm.
now.
Right.
And,
Mhm.
and then from there you go more towards a more adult like Mobius and
Mhm.
the heavy metal books because they feature a lot
Mhm.
of European artists in their comics. So to me it's a big influence. I love looking at those books. I was like, this is amazing. Well, especially the ones from way back. So,
Okay.
and they're all handmade. A lot of them now are digital, but back then it's all straight up Procreate inking and little pen nibs and the coloring with the gouache and watercolors. It was
It
amazing.
still holds true. It
Yeah,
still holds that,
yeah,
tangible texture to
yeah.
it sometimes that you could tell the difference sometimes. Like even when I see like digital art when it's
Yep,
done and
yep.
you see the actual, I follow some other comic artists and how they make that art in a certain style. It's just something raw about it, but it's raw in like a beautiful way. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
And I love watercoloring. I think
Mhm.
as a mom, looking at her doing her watercolors, that influenced me
Mhm.
also. So
Mhm.
I would draw my whole posters with watercolors instead of crayons. So I
Yes.
wish I had those from way
Mhm.
back.
Oh, so New York Blaze said, as far as favorite superhero for either DC or Marvel.
Well, let's see. For DC, actually, well, Batman's one, but as far as like a hero, I always love Wonder Woman and Shazam. Those two are my
Ah.
favorite characters. I don't know
Mhm.
why. I think it's the whole myth of what they are. They bring a lot of
Mhm.
mythology mix into it, not just straight up
Mhm.
superhero from another planet. So this
Mhm.
is also it's fun too, like Superman and all that stuff. But to me, love that fantasy aspect about it,
Mhm.
and Dr. Fate and all that stuff. So those are the ones I
Mhm.
love.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
So with Curves and Bullets, how long have you been working on the Curves and Bullets project?
It's gonna be 7 years. Yeah,
Oh wow.
7 years.
Mhm.
It's been 7 years.
It's like a journey. It's like also it could change
Yes,
too.
yes, and
Mhm.
actually, that's why I'm doing the anthology stories because there's
Mhm.
so much in the characters and all of them that I said, you know what, they deserve their own stories. So I figured
Yeah.
that's why I've been giving the spotlight to two of them. The last one was
Mhm.
Pandora's Box, where she's like a mute
Mhm.
but she's like a warrior at the same time. So and it was written by my friend Carlos Espada. And
Mhm.
me and him sat down, we brainstormed the character. I came up with the character years ago, and I said, you know what? Let's spotlight on her. And then the next book
Mhm.
was the one that you see now. is on Mechaniqua. So
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of women in this book, and to me, I think growing up with women, strong women,
Mm-hmm.
is an influence.
In our culture, yes.
Yeah, and especially in the Spanish culture, like they're all. And mom also like a trailblazer by herself, working with
Mm-hmm.
outlets and stuff over the years and doing her own galleries because it's hard when you're a female,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
painter, and especially in those days, 60s and 70s and stuff. So, that's why that inspired me. And also, I love history, so I see how they
Mm-hmm.
do over the years with different folks. So I figured, I think that's influenced me to making Curves and Bullets into what they are, like badass, smart, but at the same time with a heart. So,
Mm-hmm.
because my books aren't like just shoot 'em ups. I don't really, it has bullets, of course, but that's just part of the book. It's not really the focus about shoot 'em
Mm-hmm.
ups, killing, and it's not. There's like stories behind it, but with a sci-fi twist.
Right. I
Yeah,
love how you said that, the Curves and Bullets is gonna be a story from the heart,
yeah,
and it's definitely now with have a very strong feminine energy to it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that.
Mm.
How do you think this Curves and Bullets is gonna fit in with, our modern society?
It was funny when I first made Curves and Bullets. It was fairly coming in. The movement, I would say, is a movement.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
always been there, but I think now it's more because the internet is expanding into different
Right. Mm-hmm.
areas. So, and it's funny, like they used to always tell me, oh, but they're all women, and they all have like, oh, but they have big boobs and this and that. I was like, no, no. That's not really what my book is about. You got to look at the book, read the book, and not just look at the surface. It's pretty easy to
Mm-hmm.
determine one little thing.
Mm-hmm.
So usually that's why I like to sit down with the writers and
Right.
come up with the idea and make it more about empowerment, about
Mm-hmm.
not just straight on, they're just shooting up and things exploding, and there's a purpose behind all these things, that they're fighting for revolution, trying to get out from where they are. They were double crossed by the big guy, and there's a big
Mm-hmm.
bad villain and all that stuff. So it's a fun story, but at the same time, it's about being strong and
Mm-hmm.
moving forward at all odds. So that's why I always put amazing odds against them, but they always find ways
Mm-hmm.
to get out.
It's a very strong statement and one that's relevant even today of
Yeah,
just like being empowered and
yeah,
going, moving against all the obstacles
yeah,
any way that you
yeah.
can. And
Because life is
so,
like that, straight up.
mm-hmm.
Everything comes right at you. You gotta dodge it. So
Mm-hmm.
find ways around it, work around it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So show us a little more about the art you're doing now with Curves and Bullets. So with the villain, so you told us a little bit about the hero.
Yes,
So how did you come up? Because I see the villain is like a little bit different from the heroine here.
exactly. Well, I try making the villains more extreme from
Mm-hmm.
the human, basically. So they're
Okay.
either they're robots, mutants, creatures, and cyborg type characters. I try making them go up against like heavy villains.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it more interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
they always have the human aspect of the characters of the Armor Gang. That's the name of the gang, Armor Gang. So they're almost like 7 women and 4 males. They're like the
Mm-hmm.
backup, basically. The
Mm-hmm.
vehicle driving, and there's a big character called Bugface Juan, who's like this big bulky guy, all made of. He's like furry, so he's like the hard-edged Chewbacca.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's like a half mutant, half animal, half man type thing going on, but he's part of the gang, so he looks like a gang member with the big leather, motorcycle gang. So it's, I love incorporating human stuff and sci-fi stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
and incorporating a lot of the human things of like motorcycle gangs and like apocalyptic world, but they're not necessarily Earth. It's like fantasy world.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I love incorporating a lot of fantasy. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my thing.
No, yeah, it's great. It gives it a lot of imagination, because sometimes people love to just get away a little bit, but also it has that human aspect, which
Yeah,
is important.
yeah,
It gives the reader something to still,
yeah. They can
connect
relate.
with.
They can relate.
Mhm.
Because that's the thing
Mhm.
I like. That's why I like certain books over the years growing up, even like Judge Dredd and other stuff like that. Because those were humans aspects, but they were going through all kinds of other, situations. But at the same time, you can relate. Like, there are stories in that book that I remember in the Judge Dredd books, about how it was hard to live under, with no food sometimes. You got to get synthetic food and this and that, and then you got to go through all this. But then you had the law, which was the judges. So like all the aspects of that was fun
Mhm.
because you would see how people would make believe live in the future under
Mhm.
circumstances. So, but I kind of incorporate that also into my stories, and that's that idea basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, great. No, that's awesome. So I also wanted to know, how did you bring in also some of your culture? Because especially as,
Yeah.
people of color, black and brown people of
Yeah.
color,
Yeah.
going into the industry, it has
Yeah.
shifted so much, and it's allowed us now to like bring in our culture, bring in
Yeah.
what makes us, who we
Unique.
are in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I love incorporating a lot of them because like you can see she's Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other character she's like half African American but half Latina too because she has the afro and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
so basically I love incorporating a lot of people from the culture, la cultura, but at the same time
Mm-hmm.
I it's like a level playing field. I'll have the Latin folks, but also the regular folks, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
in the mix. So it's like because we're all in it together type of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
we're all here. So trying to move forward, and at the same time, I still bring a lot of the aspects of the Latin characters because I grew up with a lot of that influence.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom and the music and living in different parts in the Dominican Republic and here and there, and it's a big influence. And
Mm-hmm.
also learning about other Spanish, cultures like the Mexican culture, and with the especially when it comes to the Mexican culture where it's so rich and and
Mm-hmm.
and and they bring it to life, with the artwork, the tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
all the aspects. So I like to incorporate all that into my work too. So it's a big influence too. So they always tell me, "Oh, are you from the West Coast?" I was like, "I was born and raised in Queens."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're all international. So I'm
yeah,
curious about so you've traveled to different parts. I'm sure this industry you've traveled to different parts of the world.
yeah.
Um, how have you seen, from Dominican Republic to Mexico to even America?
Well,
How has the
also live in
comic industry and your
Canada.
culture's been?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and I lived in Montreal for like 4 years. So,
Mhm.
'cause being with mom, like I travel with her. Like, all right, Rolo, let's
Yes.
go. We gotta go. So,
Mhm.
got hired to do some paintings in Canada, for
Has any
example.
of that influenced you? Like since you've traveled to all
Yes,
the.
yes. That's why I learned the European books.
Mhm.
Being up in Montreal, you had to learn French the hard way because
Yeah.
it's all
Yes.
French. So a lot of the bookstores, all the books were in French. So I was learning French, going to school there and stuff. I kind of forgot, but I could still read it. So
Mhm.
still works. So, but as far as speaking, it's a little rough. But that influenced me also growing up, looking at different cultures, like being in
Mhm.
Montreal when I was 12 to like, no,
Mhm.
from like 10 till I was like 13. And then
Mhm.
moving back to New York, and then going to the DR for a little while and living there for a year and learn that culture there. And then all these different things help mold me up here, I think.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and it influenced me, especially with artwork, being around
Mhm.
mom and different artists and see how they were. I absorb all that. So,
Mhm. That's the best word, I
yes,
think. Absorb.
yes,
You adapted and absorbed it,
yes.
and
And I
you
believe a
used it.
lot in that. You gotta use
Mhm.
whatever you have and just work with that and then develop
Mhm.
from that, little bits and just make it something big. So,
Mhm. Oh, that's great. So I'll let you keep working on that.
Yes.
So those who are joining us, thank you for joining.
Thank you
This is
so
my
much.
guest, Rolo Ledesma. He's gonna be doing his show and tell, drawing a little bit of his characters for his
Yes.
new book, Curves and Bullets. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the comment box below or on
Yes.
Instagram Live TV after this.
That's perfect. In fact, let me draw a little more so
Mm-hmm.
you get to actually see.
So I'm curious because I had my second guest who actually did. We talked about a little bit about the differences between drawing on a canvas with
Yes.
acrylics and oils, and then using like this kind of format, the
Yes.
digital format.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit. I want to know a little bit more about the digital format.
Mhm.
In that sense of like what is the
Well,
pros and cons about it,
well,
etc.
there's a lot of pros for using the tablet. Like, it makes life as far as like deadlines easier because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to erase crazy lines. For example, all these things are in layers. Right now, once I'm done with the inking, the bottom is gone. So I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about, oh, I gotta erase the whole thing. Here we go, and might damage the
Mm-hmm.
work. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole big process that it gets eliminated, and and
Mm-hmm.
and you're always learning little techniques with this, because
Mm-hmm.
you can learn how to color, work around the coloring if need be, or even using different nibs in up here you get to actually see different nibs of the what you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do with ink. So they even have
Mm-hmm.
pencil lines. You can actually draw like you're actually using a pencil. So in my
Mm-hmm.
case, I like inking because I already penciled it. So
Mm-hmm.
in my case, I ink it up and I can go from thick to thin, ultra thin, and zoom in, zoom out. That's one of the pros about the Wacom file. I can actually go in like real tight, and then real,
Mm-hmm.
zoom out and not worry about, oh man, what's gonna happen. I can't see it that
Mm-hmm.
tight. I have to zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the little techniques that I love about using the Wacom tablet. And now,
Mm-hmm.
compared to, I still draw traditionally. I still do my artwork traditionally with the pencil and stuff on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to adapt more with the actual Wacom. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have to necessarily be a Wacom. It could be any tablet that you draw, you can use. Right now, there's so many different companies out there that are doing this. So it's a developing thing over the years, and it's easier now for everyone to use. Because
Mm-hmm.
now there's tutorials how to do this and that. So
Right.
I'm even learning a lot of times. Like I see, oh, wait a minute, is that how it could be done? Oh, all
The
right.
YouTube, they call it YouTube Academy, right? Like,
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
amazing that how it's being used for educational purposes,
Yeah,
especially me as a teacher. I just give YouTube videos for students or
that's
create
right.
YouTube videos for students, and
And
it's
that's what we
amazing.
didn't have 10,
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. Like there was no such thing. So
Yep.
that's one of it's like a double-edged sword. That's the good side of the sword. You get to actually
Right.
have all these tutorials and how to paint, draw, read, math, create. And back then it's just from the head or just reading a
Mm-hmm.
book and just looking around you. Now it's so much easier with the internet. But
Mm-hmm.
I still do the traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm. No,
I
it's always
still,
good to have that pen and paper readily available because
yeah,
it gives that sense, that practice. And
yeah.
that's something I wanted to ask you because as a teacher,
Mm,
I have a lot of students who are creatives as well
yeah.
and artists, and it's all about practice. It's all about getting better and seeing that progress.
Yes,
So, what
every
can you
day.
tell any young viewers when it comes to like, you can't quit basically. Like it's always the practice.
Well, it it's a cliche, but it's the truth. You gotta draw every day, practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary. You just draw and draw. For example, I draw basically, I would say 8 hours a day, but
Mm,
not
wow.
straight. Not straight.
Right.
I will draw like I'll take a break here and draw here, and then come back to it. So that's the key. You don't want to get bored either. Like once you start
Mm-hmm.
seeing as art as a job, then it gets boring.
Right.
So you
Mm-hmm.
gotta play with it and just create and just use that time to develop also skills. Because you don't want to make just, straight on, I have only one way of drawing. No, you can develop,
Yes.
you can little by little. Like I learned over the years how to draw certain ways that I look back now on some of my drawings. I was like, wait, I could have done it better. But because of that, over time. So my mom used to always tell me something that she learned from her own school in the Dominican Republic. You'll get better. No, I think you can see the skill in your artist when he only uses minimum lines instead of heavy details just to create something. You don't need all that. You want to put the message out, you just do 2-3 lines and boom, it's there. So that's and I noticed over the years that's been happening to me. As I'm getting older, I'm looking at I need less lines to promote to create something now. Like that, I still love doing my details, like this going in, like real detail, the shadowing here and the nooks and the leather. But at the same time, when I do the Mimi book, it's liberating because it's like it's so simple, but it's like okay, it works. So I don't have to go in deep. So that's the fun part about it. I think creating and learning at the same time. You gotta keep learning every day. Whenever you hear someone saying, "I don't need to learn that," they need to learn. You can never stop learning.
Oh, that's true. That's definitely true. And I think the message you said about just every day, just practice, especially if you really, that's your passion. That's something you want to do. And I think young people is something they need to hear. It's, I think we live in a generation. I notice with my students, it's that instant gratification. Like, I got to have it now. I need to get it done now. And why is it taking so long? It's learning to learning with patience, it's like, learning that value.
Or they'll shut it down. I don't like it now. No, you gotta develop it more and more. As time goes on, you develop it. And and it comes out, eventually it'll work. It is true. Practicing does work because you start developing the skills and your hand gets loose and you get more free. And for example, I don't like back then I would have to do one line at a time. Now I know where that shot would go. It'll go right about here. And then, and then even this right here will be something that I already have an outline of. And it's like a little button on a t-shirt, another button here. So I kind of already know just with little sketching of what it's going to be. So if I didn't have that background, I could still do it, because I already know in my head, all right, it's going to be right here in this line. So, but it all becomes practice. So, so
for sure.
Practice makes perfect.
I know. I tell people sometimes lines are used forever and you think they're cliche, but there's a reason why these sayings and these phrases still last throughout time.
And I believe in that. I believe over the years, I was like, it's the way to do it. And I've been pretty lucky because it's not easy. Artwork is not easy. Drawing, creating, working, getting a job with art, it's a whole different thing. But it's if you learn how to manage that and manage the time and be professional with it, you can make it happen. So
okay, great. Well, we got about 9 minutes for Instagram decides to kick me out, so I'll let you continue doing that.
Yeah. So I'll draw a little more. So you get to see. You can still see the screen, right?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay. So let's do the 9 minutes on this one, and while I'm talking.
So I have also a question about. So you said you go to conventions now, and you've been going for years. So now this year conventions are almost obsolete. Yeah, and how's that? How do you feel like that's going to shift the way conventions are done?
Yeah, I honestly, I think we won't see a Comic-Con till maybe 2 years, a year and a half from now. I just don't see anything happening anytime soon because I'll be honest, it's not easy being those shows because it's a lot of folks and it's real busy, and at the same time, you need to always have hand sanitizers and all that stuff. Even before all this happened. So, because a lot of times, a lot of folks, they do cough in their hand and you shake their hand and, it keeps going from there. So with what's happening now, though, sadly, that's why all these shows just stopped. Because who knows when there's like something good's going to come from all this, we don't know. So at this rate, we just got to now, I think, be more innovative and maybe do more online comic related, like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And I think for now, that might be the new wave of the future, as doing like almost like a virtual reality or a virtual comic show. So we get to see different illustrators and writers, and it's more, I would say it's more intimate, because a lot of times you get lost in the shuffle when you do comic shows. Like if you want to meet your creator, your favorite artist or writer, sometimes there's like lines and you really can't meet that person. And it's kind of sad, because like you wasted all this money and you get to maybe say, well, right now he's done for the day, come back. So it's kind of heartbreaking. I've seen it happen to a lot of folks that I've done comic shows, like, oh, I'm going to see such an artist and such at this booth, but there's a line and I can't make it now. And then, and then he left. So all these little things. So I think now this might make it easier when you do like maybe like interviews this way and you have multiple people coming through. The only sad part, you won't be able to actually access, like we have a handshake or a signature, because those are the important things about when you do those shows too. Like, oh, I got to shake his hand, shake Stan Lee's hand, for example.
Yeah.
So those are the fun aspects, and I used to love doing the shows, because then you see everyone's so creative, like from costumes to comic books to the movies that were coming out, like independent movies that have the writers were there and the actors and stuff, all for aiming for the goal, showcase the art. So and I miss that. I miss that aspect about the shows, because you could see how creative people can be, and from the homemade costumes to straight on Hollywood looking costumes that sometimes look better than the ones in the movies. So these are little things that I'm going to definitely miss from the Comic-Con. So hopefully next year, I don't know, I'm wrong, and hopefully next year we could do, the San Diego Comic-Con or New York Con and all the other ones that, this year I was supposed to do 4 of them. And I got all the emails basically back to back saying they were all canceled and stuff. So, that's the only
you called the 2 years one. Said someone called Canatoon said, I worked in the convention industry sometimes and nothing is booked here in San Francisco till 2022.
Oh my God. So it's 2 years now, you see? So that's and I have a feeling that's what's gonna happen, because it's still fresh. That what's happening is still fresh. We don't have, I don't know, I see the change little by little. Like New York's been good, this is a hot zone, but I see now how because of taking precautions, it helped a lot. Like I got on a train today, and I train was empty. There's a lot of social distancing, and you have your mask on and all that stuff. You're cautious now. So I think it might be a little learning lesson to folks when they open up Comic Cons, that we might have to deal with that, like having now sanitizers and certain things that we can't do like we used to back then. So it's a new future, basically. So.
Yeah. And it's like you said before, you said you just gotta adapt and absorb and just adjust to things.
That's it. That's one thing I love about animals, humans. We learn how to adapt. Like we'll find ways. Like I found ways. Storyboarding kind of died for a little bit because production companies all stopped. So if they can't film, I can't draw. So, but luckily, when you're around the art culture, you'll find people say, you know what? All right, I'm going to take the time and just create something on my own, and I'll have Rolo storyboard it for me. So I've been I've been lucky with that, because then I get that phone call in between, what's happening, and say, hey, you think I have this idea? can you storyboard this for me and scan it and email it to me? So I've been lucky with that. So, and
Yes.
because it's a hustle like everything else, but at the same time, the hustle got kicked,
Mm-hmm.
with this whole situation. So,
Yeah.
but it's been opening up little by little now, more and more for me. I've been doing more storyboards for actual production studios.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not as, it's small crews now of people filming, not like before you had like 20, 30, 40 people in one room.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have like maybe 5, 6, but
Oh.
it could be done. It could be done.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's ways around it, and I've seen it with my own eyes how things got done.
Yeah. So we have about 2 minutes. So for my closing question, I always ask my guests, because
Yes.
it's my philosophy of it takes a village and being collaborative conscious. So my question for you is, how do you envision collaboration for yourself as a comic book artist and as a creative as a whole?
Collaborate. I love collaborating, especially as a unit, because I can't do sometimes everything by myself. So I rather have people that are like-minded around me, and it makes things smoother and easier. Like if you surround yourself with people that have your vision, you don't have to like think twice about creating something or drawing something or writing something. Because like, hey, you see what I saw? Oh yeah, I see it in my head already. All right, let's draw it or let's write it. So I've been lucky with that aspect over the years with all my books, because I always have a cool creative crew around me. And then they're all friends, not just regular strangers. And also I try to incorporate a lot of people I know and people I don't know into what I'm creating. Almost like I welcome them. If I see that they have potential, they have a vision, I like to bring them in. So, because we all have to expand, the wings.
Yeah. So it's definitely having that circle that you trust and that circle that you could build with and see the same vision, and I think that's so important to know. Like they say, if you got to keep your circle small, then do it to get the job done sometimes. Rolo, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I appreciate it. So where can people find you and follow you besides Instagram?
Facebook, Rolo Ledesma, and you can find my books at curvesandbullets.com, and also let me see, Instagram. Curves and Bullets fan page. You can actually see artwork that's not on my regular Instagram. So basically from there, also I'm going to have an Etsy page.